The unmarked direction before clocks, there was change. Not the change of seconds and minutes. Those are human inventions. But the deeper kind, the universe becoming different from what it was. A particle here, not there. A photon emitted, then gone. A star burning fuel that will never return in the same arrangement. If you could rewind the universe like a film, you'd see something strange. So much of physics wouldn't object. Planets could orbit backward along their ellipses. A pendulum could swing in reverse. Two billiard balls could collide, then separate exactly the way they came. The equations would still work. Newton's laws don't care which way time runs. Maxwell's equations don't demand a future. Even many quantum rules, at their core, are indifferent. And yet, you've never seen the world do it. You've never watched broken glass leap up from the floor, reassemble itself, and land intact on a table. You've never watched steam pour back into a kettle. You've never seen a dead star unburn. Time in real life has a preference. It has a direction, and you live inside it. The first clue is not in a clock. It's in a mess. Picture a sealed room. Air inside, warm on one side, cool on the other. If you open a vent between them, heat flows. Warm air mixes with cool. The temperature evens out, but it never unmixes. Heat does not spontaneously gather itself back into a hot corner, not because it's forbidden by the laws of motion, but because the universe is biased toward what is statistically likely. A mixed room is more probable than an unmixed room. There are far more ways for molecules to be disordered than ordered. That simple counting of possibilities is the hidden engine behind the arrow of time. Entropy, a word that sounds like philosophy but behaves like a law. Entropy is not disorder in a poetic sense. It's a measure of how many microscopic arrangements can produce the same macroscopic scene. A tidy desk is one specific arrangement. A messy desk is countless arrangements. The messy desk is easier to become because there are so many more ways to be messy. So when the universe evolves, it almost always drifts toward the states that have more possible microstates. Not because it wants to, because it can. Because probability is a kind of gravity for patterns. And you, your thoughts, your memories, your body are patterns riding that statistical slope. Time feels like it moves forward because the universe is moving from less probable to more probable configurations, from fewer ways to be to more ways to be. But this only raises a deeper question. If the laws of physics don't force time to have a direction, why did the universe begin in a state where entropy could increase? Why did it start so low? Why was the early universe so special? The memory machine, to understand why time has a direction, you have to understand what it takes to remember. Memory is not mystical. Memory is physical. A memory is a pattern burned into matter. Neurons in a brain, pits on a hard drive, ink on a page, grooves in a record. And every time you store a memory, you do something irreversible. You increase entropy somewhere. Even in a computer, writing a bit isn't just information, it's heat. It's electrons pushed into place, it's energy dissipated. To create a stable record of the past, you must dump waste energy into the environment. That waste spreads, it mixes, it becomes harder to reverse. So the very act of knowing what happened is tied to the arrow of time. You don't remember the future because the future has not left physical traces in your present. The past has a footprint in sand, a photon from an ancient star, a scar in tissue, a fossil in stone. These traces exist because processes leave debris, heat, radiation, displaced matter, things that move outward and mix into the world. The universe is constantly writing history into itself, and writing comes with entropy. Now imagine a universe where entropy didn't increase. A universe where everything was perfectly reversible. In that universe, nothing would leave a stable record. No ashes, no smoke, no footprints. Even a brain would struggle to hold a memory because holding a memory requires locking in a pattern, an act that depends on dissipating energy. A perfectly reversible universe would feel like a universe without a past, not because nothing happened, but because nothing could be recorded. The arrow of time is not just something you observe. It's something you are made of. Your metabolism consumes ordered energy, like sunlight trapped in food, and turns it into heat. Heat spreads. That spread is entropy increasing. Your life is a one-way process because it rides a one-way gradient. Even your youth is a low entropy state. Cells organized, structures intact. Aging is entropy gaining ground, damage accumulating, repair failing, order slowly leaking away. You don't move forward in time. Time is the name you give to the direction in which your universe loses options to reverse itself. But still, why was there a gradient at all? Why wasn't the universe born already mixed, already maximally entropic, already ended? To answer that, you have to go back to the beginning, to the first few moments when the universe set the rules of its own direction. The early universe was hot, dense, and astonishingly smooth. Not perfectly smooth. Tiny fluctuations existed, 1 part in 100,000, but smooth enough that on cosmic scales it looked like a quiet sea of energy. And that smoothness is the key, because gravity has a peculiar relationship with entropy. In everyday life, spreading out seems like disorder, but for gravity, spreading out can be the low entropy condition. A smooth distribution of matter under gravity is unstable. Gravity wants to clump. Given time, matter gathers. It collapses into stars, galaxies, black holes. And those clumps create huge entropy reservoirs. Stars fuse light elements into heavier ones, releasing energy that floods into space. That energy spreads out, becomes harder to gather back. Black holes, if physics is right, are extreme entropy objects, swallowing complexity and hiding it behind an event horizon. So in a gravity-dominated universe, entropy can increase not only by mixing, but by structure forming. The universe began smooth. That was the low entropy starting point. And from that starting point, gravity had room to work, room to create contrast, hot stars against cold space, dense cores against empty voids, room to generate flows of energy. Those flows are what power everything that feels like time. Weather, geology, biology, thought. Stars burn and radiate. Planets absorb energy and re-radiate it at lower temperatures. Life feeds on the difference, the gradient between concentrated sunlight and diffuse heat. Every living thing is a machine that accelerates entropy, taking ordered energy and spreading it out. You are a small engine helping the universe do what it is already doing on the largest scale, moving from a special beginning toward a more probable future. The arrow of time is not imposed by a clock. It is imposed by the initial conditions of the cosmos. A low entropy start, a universe with room to become more disordered. And once that room exists, the direction is set, not by rule, by consequence. Now there is one final twist. If you zoom deep into the laws, into the symmetries, you'll find places where time reversal seems almost allowed. Some particle interactions don't behave perfectly the same way forward and backward. Tiny violations, subtle asymmetries. But even if those exist, they are not the reason your coffee cools or your memories form. Your daily arrow is built from statistics and gravity, from the overwhelming tendency of many particles to drift toward more numerous configurations, from the universe beginning in a state that made that drift possible, and someday, Far in the future, the drift may run out. Stars will burn out. Energy gradients will fade. Black holes will evaporate. Matter will thin. The cosmos will approach equilibrium, a state where nothing much happens because there are no gradients left to exploit, a universe where time still exists as a coordinate, but where time has nothing to push it forward, not because the arrow disappears, but because it reaches its end. Until then, you will live inside motion that cannot reverse. You will make footprints that don't unstep. You will watch smoke rise and never return to wax. You will feel time as a one-way river because you are made of processes that require the river to flow. And so the deepest answer is quiet. Time moves forward because the universe started in a way that allowed entropy to increase, because there are more ways for the future to be scattered than ordered, because the cosmos keeps falling into the states that are easier to become, not by decision, by consequence. And you, right now, reading these words, are proof. A pattern that can only exist while the arrow points one way, because in a universe with no direction, no story could ever be told, no memory could ever be kept, no could ever feel different from then. So time does what it has always done since the beginning. It moves from the rare to the common, from the special to the inevitable, from a quiet, smooth birth to a vast, irreversible future. One way, only forward.